Welcome everyone to this conversation podcast style interview with my friend Fez and myself, Pyramid Park. It's awesome to have you, Fez, on here. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's such a privilege to be here.
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time, haven't we?
Yeah.
I reckon it's about 4 or 5 years now. That feels like a long time in the world of music.
Oh, absolutely. Because in the world of music, 1 month feels like a year anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So
everything changes. Oh, we need to be on this platform now. Help.
I literally had that conversation this morning.
Really?
About something. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, just in case, my name is Fez, but I wasn't born Fez. It's a nickname.
Yeah.
My full name with the accent, because my parents are from West Africa, Nigeria. It's
Nice.
Feranmi Oguns, which directly translates in Yoruba as God loves me and the real God has arrived. Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that.
Depth in the name. So my real name is Simon Peter McAllen. So I would always call myself
disciple.
The Apostle, not just the disciple. Yeah, come on.
Oh, that's amazing.
You would call yourself a producer. I say that kind of cautiously because I know that you're much more than just a producer. I mean, I think a producer works incredibly hard, so there's no just a producer.
Yeah.
But maybe you can tell the listeners a little bit about how your day job looks and how you see yourself as a creative.
Yeah, and I think that last word you said is probably what I identify with the most, creative. That is such a 2020 thing to say, isn't it? I am so creative. Oh my God. But do you know what? My journey has kind of been really interesting, I guess, to myself, because I don't think I painted this version of my life when I was younger. But I started off as a drummer, which is how we met at a wedding. And I was playing drums and you were leading worship. And it was super cool. Which was interesting because I flew in the day before from another wedding, my cousin's wedding in Nigeria.
Oh my goodness.
So I literally was kind of like disorientated.
I seem to remember you were a little bit kind of like hyped.
Yeah, I was like kind of loopy and had like 3 cups of coffee before I even got there. So I was like, this is it. Yeah. But yeah, I played drums and I actually started really any interest in music when I was like, I'd say 11 or 12.
Sure.
I got an acoustic guitar from Argos.
Nice.
Which was the game changer. So I started writing really bad songs, and but I was actually a shy kid. I would say some of that still exists within me, so I hide behind all these things like drums or production or whatever. But I was a shy kid and played drums because that's kind of how I got, I guess, emotional things out there.
Yeah.
But then actually, in tandem to that, what else did I do? Then production was accidental after college. I went to Brit School of Performing Arts. And yeah, production kind of fell because I started being a music director. So I kind of had friends that would put together like, bands for artists and stuff.
Yeah.
And then friends would be like, hey, do you want to like help me do that in the studio? And it took me a while to figure out that I was producing in the traditional sense, not like laptop guy. Yeah. That came later.
Yeah.
And then I kind of found myself flexing the songwriting muscle a little bit more. But yeah,
I remember when we first met, and we, like you say, the wedding. I remember you came up and you just owned the drums for a song. I can't remember what the song was, but I was just like, who is this guy? I like him. We got chatting, and you're like, oh, we should write together. And I'm like, you've got no idea whether I'm any good. You've got like no. I was really worried about that wedding because I was playing guitar, and our friend Dave is a great guitarist, and I'm like, why are you asking me to play guitar? And I was looking around like the congregation, I'm like, I'm sure there's a load better guitarists here, but hey, there we go. That's what happens.
Yeah, totally.
So
and I think
I was just relieved to talk to someone who would actually talk to me afterwards,
That was so funny. I guess that was mutual because I could be a really rubbish writer. So let's just give this a go.
Yeah.
But it was actually cool because I think on my drive up, because it was in Cambridge, on my drive up, I had like I think I typed in your name in Spotify or something. So I'd listened to a bunch of your tunes on the way up.
Right.
So when I did meet you, I was like, oh my goodness, he's sick. Hey, we should write together.
That's so funny. I'm glad you tell that to me now. I just thought, like, I don't know why he wants to
Oh
work.
yeah, I've never told you that.
No,
Oh,
I didn't
snap.
know that at all.
Yeah, anyway, that's how it goes.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, but I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
So I know I met you as an artist, musician, just like you described. I met
Yeah.
you already with a guitar in your hand, already with an album out. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess if you could take me back to what life was like before that, like what was your first song? What inspired you? Why were you even an artist at that point? Just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I never really saw myself as an artist. I grew up in a very small place in Norfolk called Diss, which has got about a
Oh,
population of
yeah, I know this.
7,000 people. So it's
Oh,
really tiny, but a really cool place. And we really, the only things we really had going on was music or creating stuff or doing drugs. You know, there wasn't a lot else going on. So I was a good boy, and I loved music. I grew up playing the violin, so that
oh,
was so I was training classical music, but I didn't love it because I felt I could express myself in a certain way, which was mainly classically.
yeah.
But I really I wanted to pour out my heart somehow, and so I picked up the guitar when I was 14 and just played it loads and loads and loads. My mum's old classical guitar, and
Oh,
just we were in a kind of small community, church community of I don't know, 100 or so people, but there was a youth of about 30, and
sure.
so we just had every Sunday night these like crazy youth nights, which would include a youth band, and that so inspired me. And all I wanted to do was to be like the guy who led that youth band,
Yeah.
and he was really good. Like he was a songwriter himself, and just passionate, unique, different, and this kind of stuff we did like was just not normal church, and I
Yeah.
loved it so much.
Uh,
And so that was kind of so when I was 16, I think I wrote my first song. In for that context, people were
yeah.
saying I ended up being that guy, and because
You
everyone,
succeeded,
yeah,
yes.
everyone else left for uni after when they got to 18. So you know,
Yeah.
I had a 2 year stint basically of,
Mm.
and that helped me so much. So I started leading worship at 15, started writing at 16. That first song went really well. People loved it. They didn't think it was one of my songs. They thought it was some other writer, and that was a real compliment. And then I ended up writing loads more songs in the next 2 years, and none of them were as good as that one song.
Oh.
You know, and so I lost heart. And at 18, I kind of was like, you know, I don't know whether this is really for me. Went
Yeah.
away on a gap year, and a mentor friend of mine kind of pulled me aside one day and said, "You're going to write an album like this," pointing to someone's album. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No way." And he's like, you will. And he just kept telling me that until I started writing again. And then I started to really write and perform that stuff in places like pubs and just random stuff like uh, supporting function bands in pubs. I mean, it was like the lowest of the low
Oh, mate.
starting point. And it taught me a lot because people would give you like a lot of verbal abuse and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And then afterwards they were like, yeah, actually you're quite good. So that was kind of my context, and it was
Sure.
really healthy in one sense because I had the comfort of the church to try things out, and
Yeah.
the pain of like rowdy pubs, and
Yeah.
you soon worked out what songs would work. And I think
Absolutely.
for me that massively helped me know when I listen to a song on an album, I immediately be like, A, this is a banger, awesome,
Yeah.
or B, this just bores me. And
Yeah.
I'm just so brutal about it in my own mind that for me that really shapes my writing, and I'm like, I don't like it. And even if I listen back to some of my older stuff, I'm like, yeah, that was filler. So
That is such an interesting story, man. I don't even think I knew most of that.
didn't you?
I mean,
No.
no. I think I knew a little bit about the youth band because I think we'd spoken about that
Yeah,
before,
yeah,
but not really in that context. But
sure.
it's so interesting that you mentioned, like, well, to me, it sounds like performing was like one of the, um, I guess, first things that introduced you to music in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah,
and which kind of brings me to think about like. I guess while we're recording this, COVID-19 is still a thing.
yeah,
So I wonder, like, I mean, I'm privileged enough to know you through like various facets, but I guess for people listening, how is, I guess, not being able to perform like right now as we speak, in the traditional sense of it. What's
It's
that done for you, or what's that done to you?
it's been really interesting because I had an album to release during this time, so
Mm,
which I did release, and I'm really grateful I had something to release because it gave me a focus.
yeah.
And the way I kind of work is I see what I do as running a small record label, even though it's officially not a record label. Um,
Oh, nice.
so everything I do is I'm like the artist on the label, but I run the label and that helps me to distance myself from when I'm being Pyramid Park to working on Pyramid Park.
Yeah.
Um, and that one small tweak in my thinking has really helped me in this time because it's like it's business time and I don't have to
Ah,
perform. And I've had
yeah.
like the last 2 years, I think I played 30 festivals over the last 2 years, so it's
Oh
been
man.
relatively busy,
Yeah.
um, and touring a lot. And it's actually been quite nice having a summer off. Um,
Yeah.
I,
I can relate to that for sure.
and it's like I'm at home. I get to have weekends back over
Yeah.
the summer. My wife's happier because of that, and
Yeah.
and it's great. I mean, I do miss it, and I was thinking the other day about some of the road trips across mainland
Mm,
Europe, and just like there are certain moments that I'm just not going to get this year, and it makes you
yeah.
treasure them even more. So when
Yeah.
you are on that like 12-hour straight drive or whatever, you're
Yeah.
like, you know what, it's worth it for that connection. But
Absolutely.
I have found it hard. I've found the challenge of time. I've got a little daughter, and the time of balancing her and work, and life still is my biggest earner. So that's
Yeah.
made a massive dent on what I do. But thankfully, because of seeing it like a label, I have got other streams coming in, even though they're not as much as what
Yeah.
live would bring me consistently.
Oh man.
What about yourself? I mean, how have you found it?
Even my stuttering should tell you that it's
Yeah,
I'm still figuring it out.
it's challenging, isn't it? It's so challenging.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so challenging because I think so. Beginning of this year, like, can you believe this? I actually think about this often, and I'm like, wow, I didn't
Mm,
even know what I had. I literally had like 3 tours to choose from,
right.
and I was like, with like artists that I've worked with before, Georgia Smith
Uh huh.
and Jake Isaac.
Uh
And,
huh.
which one should I do because I'm so cool? Yeah, right. And literally in the space of like 48 hours, they all vanished into thin air.
Oh,
And like you said, like to be honest, I think I'm slightly different because I don't artistry isn't like my main thing.
uh huh.
So like my general income comes from production, live,
Mm,
and bits and bobs of like songwriting. But anyone that's a songwriter out there, you know the game.
yeah.
You know the
Long
game.
term.
Long term. So it's definitely been interesting. But what I've loved is so I got married. I've been married for just over a year now,
Yeah.
and this will have been the first summer that I'd be away the whole summer. So I was already like a little frantic about that, to be honest.
Mm,
Um, but it's been amazing. Like I don't think I'll ever gotten this kind of free time to just hang out with my wife and chill out,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, yeah. And it's also forced me to think of creative ways of like, I guess, approaching music, not
Mm,
just I have an album, gonna produce an album, stuff like that.
yeah.
Which is really, for me, it's been like really life giving to actually slow down
Uh huh.
because I felt like I was just busy. I don't even know if the things I was doing to be busy were good, but I was busy, and I was just so used to being busy
Mm.
that I had no time to think because I was like, oh, next thing, next thing. And now I'm like, there's more than enough time to
It's
chill.
needed, isn't it? It
Yeah,
really is needed.
yeah, which is actually kind of cool. And I might be jumping ahead because it's out of that whole creative space that I was like, we started chatting about.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Never let
Okay,
me
cool.
down.
That's why I was trying to like pause. Like, I'm not sure we
Shall
should
we
talk
say
about
it?
that.
Do we do
Yeah.
it? No.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, we wrote, just to give people a bit of background, we co-wrote the song Never Let Me Down
Whoop.
back in January 2018.
Yeah.
So the background
Yeah.
for me was I just jumped into doing this full time. You're in your studio in East London.
Yeah.
Old Street, was it around that area?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a spot called Nettle House,
Yeah.
which was just Bethnal Green, near
Bethnal
Bethnal
Green.
Green.
I
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Really nice spot.
Proper hipster vibes,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Oh gosh, who did I think I was? Oh.
Well, I didn't fit in particularly, so hey, never mind.
Neither did I, so it's all good.
But that was we banged out that song in a day,
Yeah.
and we kind of both felt like, oh, we've got something on
Mm.
this. Um, do you remember that session? I mean,
Yeah. So what I remember from that session actually was it was such an interesting like junction that we both met at again because we had already written songs for the last album
yeah,
together.
yeah,
So I think we were still kind of like patting each other on the back, like, "Oh, that actually went really well, sick." And then
we can write.
yeah, oh, we actually write songs. I remember we started off with another idea that
Yes.
didn't really take off, and but I love the idea, the fact that we didn't force it. We were kind of like, yeah, it's not really working. Let's try something else. And we went to get bougie coffee, I think, and then came back in, and yeah, we just kind of started this thing. And I know we started talking about just little things like what would it sound like for Pyramid Park to do something a bit more pop centric than
Yeah,
band centric. And I think that kind of helped us to think outside the box,
yeah.
which is cool. But that's what I remember. Yeah,
And we just talked.
yeah,
We talked and we talked and we talked, and we landed on an idea that was like, okay, this is what we're going to write about. Because I think before that and I think it's just a great tip for songwriters in general, is we tried to write from almost straight out inspiration without having
yeah,
any idea of theme, and then
yeah,
we got stuck so early because the inspiration dried up. When we started with theme, it was like, okay, now that has set the course for inspiration.
yeah,
So that was really fun.
yeah.
And
And I
then you got in
guess
touch with me and you were like, so fast forwarding like
yeah,
ages.
fast forwarding like
It
a
was,
whole trip to Scotland
yeah.
to record the album, and
We
that
should
was
probably
so
talk about that
fantastic.
first before we go into the remix.
Yeah. So just for anyone listening, to touch on the point about if there are any tips, not that we're experts, but
No.
I always also say that talk more than you write.
Yeah.
Like have way more conversation than you actually do writing a song because it always helps. But in saying that, Pete and I basically practically lived together twice.
Yeah.
Because the first album we basically lived together for the week we were recording, and then the second album we basically lived together for the week we were recording, which is great.
But at least we had separate rooms the second time.
Yeah, the first time we were definitely
on the floor.
brothers in Christ.
Yes.
I put it that way.
Trying ginger shots in the morning.
Yeah, literally.
Big
shout out
thanks
to Alan
McKinley.
Yeah. Oh man. So I think recording the album the second time around was such a great experience because I think number one, Ian Hutchinson, one of the best like guys I've met. As a producer, as an engineer, just a creative, really. He definitely knows how to give space to other creatives to do their thing.
Yeah, he's not precious, is he, at all?
Nah, and it was great because we just had loads of chat. I think to be in the music industry, you just need to like up your chat game. Just be able to chat about every and anything, really.
Yeah.
And I think in recording the songs, especially recording like Never Let Me Down, I kind of felt quite proud because it felt like the song stood its ground amongst the other songs, which was actually really special. And also hours of sweating and hitting drums, but it was great.
It was kind of like one of those songs where I think you did it in 2 takes.
Yeah.
And you're like, because you'd written it, I think you had such a vision for what I always felt like that was the anchor song of the album for some reason. It was like it sat in the middle between the other two, the far left and the far right kind of of the album. And we even had a track, like a Young the Giant track, that kind of was a great reference. So it came together. But the moment of the Phil Collins like drum intro was a moment of inspiration.
It really was a moment of inspiration.
And I've had someone quote, the boldness of the album is summed up from the very intro, which is a cross between Phil Collins and the EastEnders theme tune. So
you know what? That is the best. That is great.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that.
So there we go. And it was a moment of inspiration. Man. I remember Ian just like turning around and just nodding his head and smiling, and we were all like, yes, this is going to be something.
Yeah, and like I must admit credit to both of you because like I guess when like playing drums on the album, I didn't feel like I was just doing whatever you told me. You gave me so much freedom to actually just explore what could work, what couldn't work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you. And also Henry on bass,
Yeah.
who's actually a genius in himself.
There were some nice
Um,
moments.
yeah.
I mean, how did you approach from writing a song through to recording it, and then, as we're going to talk about in a minute, remixing it?
To be honest, I don't know if there's a. I'm trying to think of the straightest answer for that. The reality of it is, it's like you said, like, in terms of just like being a creative that's self-employed, you have to wear so many different hats regularly anyway. So I'm quite used to switching hats between track and drum, especially when I'm producing a record, for instance. 1 minute I'm tracking drums, next minute I'm like back to like technical things about EQing and stuff. Then I'm playing another instrument. So I'm quite used to jumping in and out of various thought processes. But especially when like playing drums on a song that like had the pleasure of writing as well, I think it carries it just I feel like I understand the ethos of it more because I know how we felt, what we were talking about, and what it means. So I feel like I can kind of channel that. It sounds really holistic, but it kind of helps me to like put it in focus.
Yeah.
Plus, I try to run every day while we're recording to keep my mind at like centered in a way. I try really hard to look after my mental state.
That's great.
And just, I guess, sorry to jump in there, but while we're on the topic of like the album process, I guess I just wanted to bring up a thing that, like, again, as we're recording this, there's been a massive conversation about Black Lives Matter. And for those who don't know, I'm a black man. Pete's a white guy. So I guess I wanted to speak on the fact that like perspective is really powerful in our world, especially as creatives, because we set the tone for a lot of things without even realizing that we do.
Yeah, let's talk about that song, Bright Heart.
Yeah. So this is actually really cool. So in the lead up to the album, obviously Pete, being so organized as he is, sends the whole album and already listen, I'm like, this is done. So I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever. So listen to the album. There was a song called White Hands, White Heart, which as a Christian, I totally understand means like purity and like just being clean because of Jesus, and we believe that. I believe that. But whilst we were recording, the more I guess I heard the song on loop. At a point, I kind of pulled Pete aside, and I was like, "I think the song is great, but I don't think I would ever say White Hands, White Heart because it's just not something that. It's just not me. Like I don't have white hands, and it sounded so simple and so like kind of to me felt slightly inconsequential because I was just stating my perspective on it, not necessarily that this had to change because I was offended. And I think that was so healthy for both of us. One, for our friendships, knowing that we could be that open with each other.
Without a doubt.
But two, to actually welcome perspective, which is something I think I value a lot. And it works both ways. And it's just something that I value, that we could have missed that had we not spoken up or even like been open with each other.
Yeah, and I was really grateful you did that. You know, Ian, who was producing it, is white. You know, was. So, and you know, and neither of us picked it up, and I think I was embarrassed when you told me in a way like, yeah, you're absolutely right. How did we not see this? And I think the whole conversation, which I can only imagine how many conversations you've had in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I just was like, A, a little disappointed with myself, B, really pleased that you brought it up, like that you felt comfortable enough to say that to me.
Yeah.
And of course it was rewritten. I went away thinking, how do we miss this? How do we just not see this? But C, it's like, I've got quite frustrated quite quickly when I've seen the whole All Lives Matter thing. Because, and it's generally come from people, and I've seen it from musicians in the industry who are white, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, do we, like, after all this time, after all that's been going on, and I know why people say that, but it kind of, it's got to a point of being quite upsetting for me, and so I can only imagine how much more frustrating
and I
it has been for you.
I think, do you know what? It started off quite exhausting because, like, it's hard to accept that somebody in this same world that I live in is being killed, and people are being killed because
Yeah.
they look like me. That's not something that you easily like digest.
No.
But on the other hand, I think um, first of all, don't let social media dictate how you feel about anything. I think everybody kind of needs to take a step back
Yeah.
and figure out how they feel about things,
Yeah.
and call people that they trust about it. Because prior to this podcast, we've spoken about this and been open about this. So I think that's, for me, what's important and what's valuable, and that's why I chose the word perspective, because it's I don't what I've noticed is some people kind of trying to validate their alliance with Black Lives Matter by, I guess, trying to like rush around to speak to their black friends to make it seem as though that validates them in a way. And that's not really what it's all about. It's kind of just welcoming perspective. That's it. Just being open to perspective. And I know we said this before this, but I also value the fact that even in co-writing and playing drums, you're not like, oh, let's get that black drummer to do that thing.
Yeah.
It's actually just, let's get Fairs because he's good.
Yeah.
Like, and I really appreciate that. And vice versa. It's not like, oh yeah, he's like a white guy artist.
And
it's actually just
the white indie scene.
Exactly. It's Pete.
Yeah.
Which is so special, and I really, really treasure that for sure.
Yeah, and I think with anyone, I always feel when you're going back to recording and all that kind of thing and artistry, you really want to have your team around you who you can trust, who you know are going to question what you're doing, but in a way that it's for the best for the project. And so for me, I'm very passionate about that, and I'm grateful you've been willing to get involved as well.
Always, man.
And Ian loves you, so that helps.
Oh man, I paid him to love me, to be fair.
I know. Let's talk about the remix, shall we?
Yes.
Never Let Me Down. So you contacted me only a few weeks ago saying, hey, would you like me to remix one of your songs? So I said, and which one? Stupidly. Like, of course it was going to be Never Let Me Down. Tell me about your process.
Yeah, absolutely. This is really interesting because the prelude to that conversation was we were just catching up on life. How are you? And you let the cat out of the bag about certain things that you were working on that I'm not going to let out right now, but I think are super cool. But I remember both of us just kind of being like, you just kind of have to make it work, like right now. And then I went away and I was like, do you know what? Why don't we just like do something together as opposed to, you know, otherwise. And then I went back to the album and I was like, it would be cool to do a remix, and bearing in mind that like doing remixes is relatively new for me at this point. So it's not like I'm a remix guy. So I guess I felt safe enough to be like, hey, do you mind if I try this on you? Basically. Which is kind of cool. Not that cool that you're guinea. Shut myself in the foot. Anyway.
I'll take it.
Not at all. But and that was it. And I thought Never Let Me Down would be cool because we both have like a vested interest in it.
Yeah.
And without trying to like skim around it, I guess we're both quite knowledgeable about the business of music. So we both know also that because we both wrote the song, if we release the song again in a new way and it actually gathers traction, it also equates to money, basically. Totally. So I think we both had like a common interest in that. And I say that on purpose because like I think just people need to hear that it's not just the art, it's actually the balance of art and business.
Yeah, without a doubt. With every release.
Literally with everything. So yeah, that's why I reached out, and to be honest, I just asked for the a cappella because I know the music too well because I played it. Yeah. So I was like, I'm interested to see what I could hear when it's just a cappella, and I had so much fun doing it.
And I was really surprised that you did that. Like I was like, oh, I wonder what it's gonna sound like. And this is what I love. My little girl Lilia, she jumped up. I started playing it while she was doing some home preschool, as we call it, and she just jumped up and started dancing without being provoked or anything. And that was like when I knew this is gonna work.
Yeah. When you text me that, I literally was like, thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. But I think I really enjoyed making it. And I have a little home setup. I don't even have speakers. I have in-ear monitors. And I just have a MIDI keyboard. And some sounds on my hard drive. and
that's
kind of tried to put that together. So that was really fun.
But limitation's good, I think, for creativity.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely.
I mean, you
love
hate it at first, and then it's like, actually, what can be done in this space?
Yeah, exactly. Until you go on Instagram and see other people, and you're like, "Rah, that's your space."
Yeah.
Oh, flip.
Yeah, I know.
You're big time.
Need to invest.
Oh,
I have a
gosh.
list of things on my blackboard in front of me right now, and
Oh,
I'm
dude.
like, this is just the start, and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to get to these.
Let's not even start.
I know,
and
right?
it's like it never stops.
It
You're just
doesn't.
like, oh,
It
I'll just put it
doesn't.
at the bottom. I'll put it at the bottom. I'll put it at the bottom.
So you touched on industry a little bit. You've had some really interesting opportunities in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
One thing that I saw on one of your posts, a kind of producer award thing. Can you tell
Yes.
us about that?
So I won a producer songwriter award. Drake, Yolanda, a guy called James Drake, amazing philanthropist, and Yolanda Brown, saxophonist, and they put together this fund for producer songwriter. And I'm giving you the quick blurb. It's myself and a bunch of other people in the room, and there was about 6 producer songwriters, and you could build your own team. So I could have gone there with like a whole band if I wanted to, but I just went with a friend of mine, Megan Lara May. Shout out to Megan Lara May, incredible artist and writer. You should check out her music. And what we did was they gave us a theme. I think it was love. Yeah, such a broad topic.
Oh man.
And we had 15 minutes to write a verse and a chorus. And not just write verse, chorus, plus production, plus record the vocal. 15 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
I know, crazy. And then if you got to the next round, you go into the studio and you have 30 minutes to finish the song. And at the end, whoever wins gets some prize money and a whole like thing. And it was incredible. I really enjoyed it, and it was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting, because Megan and I got married a month apart, not to each other, but we got married a month apart, and we had a lot to say about love, because it was all kind of new to us in that way. So we wrote a song called Complicated. But yeah, that was a really cool opportunity, and I'm really grateful that I actually to win that, because I don't think I actually went in there thinking I've got this. I went in there thinking, wow, I'm even allowed in this room. I'm so blessed, because I was with some other heavyweights who've done stuff that I'm aware of. Yeah. And I try to play it down like, oh yeah, what's your name again? I knew everybody in that room because I'm a fan of their work.
That's brilliant. It's so terrifying, I can imagine.
It is. Oh man. But yeah.
And I'm interested, congrats first of all.
Thank you, man.
That's a really awesome achievement, and to be able to do it. I know you push yourself. Like, I've seen you work and be like, I want to push. If I'm working on a song with somebody today, I want to try and finish it. Produce it today. I really respect that, and that kind of work ethic has helped me a lot to push through with some songs. You once said to me when I was working on my debut Pyramid Park project, Vulnerability, that you're like, why can't you get this done in a year? And I remember thinking, it's going to take me 6 months to do, and you're like, I reckon you could do it in like 3 months. And I'm like, that kind of mindset has really helped me to push through some things when I've needed to.
Man.
But I'm just interested about your perspective on the music industry as it is at the moment, from, again, your perspective. But and as a producer, but more than a producer, as a creative, whatever you want to call yourself. Yeah. I think the world of the producer is changing rapidly, and traditional producers won't be able to, in 10, 15 years' time, be able to produce in the same way unless they are massive heavyweights in the industry. Yeah. So what guys like you who are kind of in between, like, you're definitely not the bedroom producer guy anymore, but even though you probably do produce in your bedroom.
Yeah, basically.
But you're not at that level. And,
sure.
But you're on your way to greater things, I think. So in that middle space, which is kind of where I feel I am as well. What are you seeing, and what do you see as new things as well that could potentially happen in the future, or new ways of working?
Yeah, I think I'll definitely start back to front. That I think I love that phrase, in the middle. We should write a song called In the Middle.
Yeah, we should.
I think it's actually just so interesting being in the middle. I think to be on the top of the mountain, kind of, I don't know. I guess I've never been there, so whatever. But to be at the bottom of the mountain as well could be quite daunting. But to be in the middle, that's kind of exciting, because you can still choose what path you want to take and still figure out what you want to do.
Mm.
And the traditional producer, like I grew up with some really key mentors. A guy called Femi Tomorrow, who's a jazz guitarist, amazing producer. He was like music director for like Amy Winehouse and stuff like that. And then another guy called Guzzy, who still produces today. He produced Noel Robinson's last album, Under Integrity.
Nice.
And like, so I grew up kind of like going to their sessions and like setting up their like keyboards and guitars. That's how I kind of got into that. And I watched them do their thing with such efficiency that they could sit behind the computer and run the whole session, or they could just play one instrument, or they could hear things that I didn't even know were possible at the time. So I think that kind of influenced me massively, like massively. So now, I mean, up until when COVID hit, I would be in the studio, but with as little people, as not as many people really. I'd most of the time any more than 4 people, and I'm like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah, it's too many, isn't it?
Yeah, so like to kind of get down to it, and but now that everything's from home and remote, I'm finding it it's challenging for me because I've never really been an electronic producer in that way. It's kind of been more organic with electronic infusion, but I'm enjoying this new space, if I'm honest. I think moving forward, for anyone listening, is just to allow yourself to be flexible.
Great.
Trying to define your own sound to yourself is like trying to put yourself in a prison, in my opinion. I don't think it's important to do that. I think you are who you say you are, and everybody else responds to that.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to fit into a box that other people might have been looking at before. That's just my opinion. So if you are a producer or songwriter or musician or all those things in one, I just want to say it right now that that's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to choose one.
Yeah.
Especially when people ask you, which do you prefer to do? Please don't answer that, because the chances are you like all of them in equal measure.
Yeah.
So,
what do you prefer, live or studio or
songwriting,
so, or whatever? Like, each has benefits.
Exactly, I am all those things. I'm all those people. But it's interesting because I want to ask you the same question, because you're a songwriter, you're an artist, you're actually, I guess, like a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah.
In so many different ways that you teach me so many things in terms of merch, and I mean, I'll let you talk about that. But how do you manage it is the question. It's more what excites you still?
I used to think that the one thing that I used to think I'd hate would be the management side of things, and running business, but I actually love it because I think I'm not a manager, but I have to manage my stuff.
Yeah.
So while I actually have someone who helps with management, his role really is more opening new doors that I can't open myself.
Yeah.
So I run Pyramid Park, and people are like, is Pyramid Park a band or is it just you? Or, I'm like, I'm the guy behind it, and when you see us live, it will be mainly as a band. But it's me.
That's a good answer. I love that. So well rehearsed.
Right. I do it all the time. But yeah, I've definitely like leaned into a lot of stuff. I've gone to conferences, business conferences, and tried to apply what is relatable for me. And again, I think you can't say one artist, path is the same as another artist. I've been really fortunate that I've had a lot of doors closed on me, and because of that, I've had to find another way. And I'm the kind of guy that I love the underdog, so I respond really well to when I get emotional like anyone does when you have a big rejection, but then I respond well to it by either trying to prove people wrong or trying to find another way, and that's kind of my approach.
I love that.
And I'm really organized, but I'm also, when I'm in the zone of creating, I feel liberated and energized. So I think it's about balancing them out. People say you should have it 50-50 as an artist, but in reality, I think you're probably focusing more on the business than you are on the creative until you're writing for a project or working on an album, and then it's pretty much 99% creative.
Yeah.
And to be okay with that and to catch the moments. So if I'm traveling, use that to work.
Yeah.
If I'm in the studio and I'm not really having to listen hard, I just dial out and work on,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, some content or something else. Or
Yeah.
and I love that. I'm not a video editor really, but I've enjoyed creating
Yeah, you
content
are.
for that.
Because it looks
And
sick.
you know, and but I have my like list even in my studio of like different revenue streams that I'm trying to help
Yeah,
along, and um and that helps me to like refocus again. I think a key
absolutely.
is fans. Like, you need
Mm,
to build different relationships with your fans, and what you never look at a mainstream artist who is like killing it on a major record label and think you have to do the same,
yeah,
because they can do it because they've got a stack of dollars behind them.
yeah,
As an
absolutely.
indie, you're like £0 to £100 for a project sometimes,
Yeah,
and you have to make it work.
and you have to make it stretch.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's like you say, limitations like that really helps me.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, so who are the people I'm really trying to target, and who are my core fans, and who am I really
yeah.
building relationship with? And so yeah, I just see over time I realize I'm quite a general guy, that I do a lot of things, and I don't call myself a great artist. I just think I've gone at it longer than some other people have, and I haven't given up yet. So
Oh,
that's
that
kind
is
of
so
my
good.
perspective.
Oh, so
Because you
poetic.
do find people like jump off after a while
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they've had enough, or they've had too many rejections. And I just think if you just keep going and you keep building, sooner or
Mm,
later there's going to be great connection.
you tip. Yeah, definitely. I could be wrong. So if
Mm,
this applies to anyone listening, I'd really apologize. It's just a gross, just whatever.
mm,
Anyway, but I do think that most people that jump off is because deep down they've always had a second plan.
yeah,
Like they know they can do something else.
yeah.
So they're just giving this a shot. Meanwhile, people like us, kinda, if we don't do this,
We're
we're
kind of
actually
stuck.
screwed.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
nothing else to do.
yeah. Exactly.
Oh man, yeah,
It's
that's
it's kind of that's the life though. I think
mm,
because you have, and I think this is true to life, when you have something that is can be as public as what we do,
yeah,
and could have an incredible reach, there's
mm,
also a greater level of pain and frustration on the underside of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's my life anyway.
I
um
love that.
and you're
So
always
inspiring.
juggling. I think it was TD Jakes who once said something about, um what was it? He said, I always drop something every day, but I try not to drop the same thing twice.
Yeah,
So if it's he missed out on something in his preaching the first day, he makes sure he nails it the second.
yeah,
Or maybe he wasn't there for his son that day, but he was definitely there the next. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I kind of feel like that, where I'm always dropping something, but I
Mm,
try not to drop the same thing 2 days in a row.
yeah, I love that. I need to adopt that. I think I have a less detailed version of that. Is sometimes dropping the lesser for the greater,
Yeah,
and sometimes dropping the greater for the lesser to serve others.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
that's
yeah.
nice. I like that as well.
Hmm.
Oh, deep. We've gone deep.
Very.
I love it.
Let's bring it up to the surface.
Yeah.
What's your current dream? So, I mean, we've got this remix,
Uh-huh.
and that's great, but like, I guess, give me a picture of Pete and Pyramid Park in 2021. No, let me do this way.
Go on
You
then.
ready for this? Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
The year is, the date is January the 1st, 2023.
Oh,
Pyramid Park is,
oh
you can
man.
fill in the rest.
That is
Ooh.
surviving.
Has money? Yes.
Tick. Releasing music. Tick.
Tick.
Um, I'd like to do some more stuff in the States.
Ah, yeah.
Like, I'd like to do some targeted tours there, and
Nice.
have some great connections there. And some more stuff in like mainland Europe. I'm really passionate about. I don't know why, but I've just had opportunities in different parts of certainly Germany and the Netherlands and
Mm,
Slovakia, Austria, places like that. So
yeah.
I'm kind of passionate about some of that stuff as well. I think like the first thing is I never want the quality to dip. I want it
Yeah.
always to
Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah.
project I do. I want it to have something fresh about it, and I
Yeah.
want to still be saying stuff, and being like honest about stuff.
Mm.
But I would love to have a team around me that is helping me so that I can focus a little more
Ah,
on the areas of business that I want to focus on, and then a little bit more on the creative side.
Absolutely.
So if I could have like someone who's like my bookings person slash admin, and then somebody else who's probably doing all my content and, you know, running that from a video and everything else, that would be just incredible to have that support.
Oh man, to anyone listening, you know what to do. Just hit him up. You know you want to do it. You know you do. It's not always money. Sometimes it's investments are worthwhile.
And I don't know what success looks like anymore. In some ways, because I think when you're young, a little bit younger, you think, oh, it's about playing in front of this amount of people or having a hit on the radio. But now, like, radio's not going to be the same as what it was. So, I just think making a difference is a really big thing, and I dream of leading worship in places where people don't know they're being led in worship. And just impacting people with the presence of God on a big scale. That's kind of what I'd love.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I'm going to throw that back at you because I've got...
Oh, snap.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I mean, do you want to be doing more production? You're going to say all three, probably, but more songwriting, more live. I mean, what is your heart with what you're doing?
I think, for me, things that I'm looking forward to, or at least a driving force, is to maybe work on enough songs or co-write enough songs that the residual income from that, in terms of royalties or whatever it looks like, can actually pay for at least a portion of my life and my family in some way. That's a real dream of mine. But the second one is, like, I want to find like a 16-year-old Fez.
Nice.
Not just one, and not just a male. I'd just love to find a 16-year-old Fez. And to me, what that looks like is somebody that just is curious about just what they can do with music, not just, I want to be a producer or I want to be a drummer. Or because I feel like around that age, I probably was more like curious about just music as a whole and the business, as well as like even programming, all these little things that kind of make up a live show or studio or whatever. And kind of like invest in them and actually pour. I don't want to be like somebody that carries all of this stuff that I have inside me just for my benefit. I definitely want to be experience poor because I've shared it with so many people. Because in that they get to carry their torch and like believe that they can do it. Not because they've seen me do it, but I guess I'll just be tangible proof to them that they can make a living from it, which tends to be the thing. It's like, can I make a living from it? But yeah, I guess those are the things that drive me. And also just to write flipping awesome songs.
Same.
Just songs that you're like, wow, I actually wish I wrote that. Oh wait, we did write that. Kind of like Never Let Me Down. But yeah.
You hope. I never know. My barometer's so like off with that kind of thing sometimes. I can listen to my stuff and love it and then listen to it and hate it. So
totally.
I think that's the same for a lot of people, I guess. But
the comparison killer.
And try not to compare yourself with other people. That's a big one for sure. I'm interested in what's going to happen. I hope we can write some more songs together.
Yes, we're writing in the middle.
In the middle. I've got it written down actually on my piece of paper in front of me with some other random stats. So
that's gonna happen
in the middle. Do you know what? I've not written anything this year apart from one song.
Oh snap!
I know, so I'm actually getting hungry to write. So that's a good thing.
That's good.
I kind of needed the space.
Yeah.
Just before we go, I think it'd be really good for people who are listening, certainly on my platforms, to find out where to find your music. So maybe you can just point people in that direction.
Yeah. So like on socials, sounds like Fez. I do this thing where I'm so oblivious to social, so if it's hard to find me, I apologize. And I also have some music out. Nice. It's like instrumental music, kind of like lo-fi, chill, hot music under Fez with an accent on it. Just hopefully you find it easy enough.
I think it's been awesome to be able to release something together like this, and who knows what's going to happen. I hope you guys who are listening have enjoyed it so far.
Yeah.
It's definitely got that chill summer vibe thing that I wasn't quite expecting you to come up with. So it was a nice surprise, and the people
cool.
who've heard it so far have been really positive about it. So great job on the remix, really great job.
Shout out to both our wives then.
Yes, indeed. And to Maddie for doing the great artwork as well, and the cartoons. If you haven't seen them yet, go check those out.
Oh man, yeah, that's actually so sick.
Yeah,
actually so sick.
Thanks so much for joining us today. It's been really good to chat. And if you guys, like I said, want to find out where you can listen, do search Fez, or what sounds like Fez. And I can't wait for you guys to follow his journey as well as my own. Take care, everyone.
Man. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.